Hi, Shay. How are you?
Hi, Belinda. I'm doing so well today. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic.
Good.
I'm here with Shea Bodine, and I'm going to start with your bio.
Okay.
Shay is a mother, youth mentor, space holder, educator, community tender, and healer. Her ancestral lineage descends from English, Celtic, and Norse peoples, and she is offering her services from Silverton, Oregon, original home of the Malala and Kalapuya people, where she lives with her two young children, chickens, old growth oaks, and a garden full of plant buddies. She holds a K through 12 teaching credential and studied biological sciences and Latin American studies. She is bilingual in Spanish and holds training in youth yoga teacher certification, trauma-informed space holding, John Young's coyote mentoring, grief tending, and youth rites of passage facilitation through Earth Path education. Still, she maintains that the school of life has been her best teacher, along with becoming a mama. Yes. She loves life deeply and is devoted to reflecting beauty. Her life is devoted to upholding her responsibility as a mama, earth tender, and guide for young people. She expresses her love for life by singing, creating ritual, communing with nature, gathering with those she loves, moving her body, deep laughter, exploring,
Mhm.
and wildcrafting. Her North Star vision is a belief that young ones, our greatest teachers, deserve holistic educational, nature based experiences and rooted mentorship as they unfold through their exploration of self. Despite layers of increasing complexity and grief of this time, it is not impossible to imagine a world where all individuals are anchored in belonging, where young people receive the respect and support they deserve and are honored and supported through their transitions into adulthood. Shay, is there anything else you'd like to add to that?
No, it sounds pretty complete to me.
Yes, and we are on the same wavelength. And the reason why I wanted to bring you on is because your specialty is in the adolescent space, which a lot of my content so far is in the baby space. And I feel like we need a lot of support for the adolescents, actually, probably from age 9 and up,
Yeah.
for
Hmm.
children to feel rooted and that sense of self, the exploration of self. That is not accessible to us when we grow up in the conventional education system.
Yeah.
It actually takes you away from yourself, right? It
Hmm.
leaves us very disconnected. It leads us on this road of disconnection just
Yeah.
by nature of how it works.
Yeah.
And so I'm so happy to be bringing you on to talk more about how we can support our children.
Mhm. I'm so happy to be here. Super grateful to all the work that you're doing and what you're bringing to families and to people. So thank you.
Thank you. So you offer a mentorship program for youths ages 7 to 18.
Hmm.
This is an offering of a safe space for feelings and internal processes, as well as emotional resilience education. Can you please share more detail about this program and what it looks like? Is it
Sure.
always in person? Can it be done online? Tell us more.
Yeah, super happy to. So maybe I'll backtrack a little bit and just say that this mentorship program is really born out of the need for what you're describing, the gaps in the education system, and then this like intense amount of pressure being put on families to do it all without the village, and that it's the parents' job then to take on all of it. And I really think I'm really wanting to bring back this kind of village mentality that like youth need their parents first and foremost as their mentors and guides, but they need other people too. They need other people that are safe, trusted adults who can hold that space with them, who are neutral.
Yeah.
Um,
Neutral is
so,
key.
yeah, neutral is key, right? Because no matter what familial relationships can have charge or tensions, it's just they're the greatest mirrors. So, my my mentorship, it runs from ages 7 to 18. And a single session could run from 30 minutes to an hour, really depending on what the kid is needing and what the family is hoping for. So I've formatted this in a lot of different ways. I can definitely do Zoom. And I would say that works way better for kids even ages 10 and up. The 7
Mhm.
to 10 range tend to lose interest on Zoom,
Right,
and
and they
we
shouldn't be doing that
no,
anyway.
and we need
Yeah.
we need to be doing a lot of, like, hands-on things, but the
Mhm.
modalities that I'm working with are, mostly somatic body-based. So
Wonderful.
we're doing tons of nervous system exploration, and that can be through a lot of different, avenues. Some kids are really verbal and need that verbal processing and really thrive in that, like, "I just need a safe container and I'm gonna just go." And then other kids, like, don't access that, and they don't access their emotional body and their somatic body through talking about things.
Mhm.
So I am really excited to have this skill set where I weave in some like art therapeutic modalities, weaving in something called somatic mapping, which is an in-depth kind of nervous system exploration where you figure out where you explore your brain states. Actually, you figure out your reactive states when you're in that protection response or in that kind of amygdala lower brain hijack, we call it.
Yeah.
So there's definitely this educational piece, but then there's also this like deeply nourishing, adaptive and responsive piece where I'm really listening to what it is that the kid is interested in, what
Mhm.
they want to be doing, um, what is important to them. They really guide the sessions. I never have an agenda or things that I'm like, okay, they must learn this in a session. I really respect and honor their knowledge of themselves. And I'm finding actually in working with teens right now that they're so self-aware. I'm like, I'm like, "Holy moly, I feel so dumbed down." Like, when I was a teen, I did not have this level of self-awareness that some of them have, I think, in this information age and knowing things about themselves, but then where I'm seeing the gap is it's like there's still not a lot of, like, tools or supports to help them figure out how to navigate some of these bigger anxieties,
And,
depression, you know.
rightly so, because
Yeah,
all the adults that surround them have no clue. We didn't
right.
grow up with these tools.
No, Bill Plotkin, who's one of my favorite mentors, teachers. Have you heard of him? He's incredible. He talks a lot about how in the West we've ventured far from such a communal culture where we have like rites of passage and we have ways of like supporting kids through all through the adolescent period. And then because of that, like we ourselves sort of have inner teenage parts. And then we don't have the tools necessarily to support the teen. And then it has sort of become this cycle where they're kind of like ages, 12 to 18 are kind of like fall through the cracks because we just sometimes it is a society don't know what to do with them and how to support
Well,
them.
and I would add on to that, that not only do we not know how to support them, but more damaging is the fact that we take our own traumas and we put them on the child,
Yes.
right? And so
Yes.
they because we have the societal norm that is like, as parents, we have to teach you. I know better than you,
Yeah.
but
I'm
we
the victim
don't,
holder.
right? And we don't. And so we
No.
basically mess them up because we're basically shutting down their own intuition because we think we know better.
Yes. Yes. And I say, and I know this is something we might talk about later, but like really working with that inner judge as a parent, really working with that inner judge on yourself because the teens of our collective receive so much judgment. They receive so much judgment about what they're exploring and who they're becoming and how they act and how they talk. And anyway, I want to talk more about that later, but
Yes.
I'll circle back to say in my sessions, we also work a lot with nonviolent communication. And
Okay.
so that's a big piece, I think, that families and teens can struggle with one another is that like snappiness and that reactivity. And really, I would love for teens to learn how to take responsibility for their tone, for the way that they're sharing information, but more importantly, being able to identify their own needs, being able
Mhm.
to identify their own emotions, like really what's underneath that tension you're experiencing, and can you communicate about that?
So what's interesting that is coming to me when I'm hearing you is generally when people are working with children, they will work with the parents first. And once they get to a certain age, you kind of just work with the teen. But
Mhm.
in these cases, because you're working on something that's so sensitive and self-development, if you're not working with the parent as well,
Mhm.
then you could potentially come into these experiences where the child, which I guess is fine, but the child is now having to regulate themselves so that the adult doesn't
Mhm.
have to,
Mhm.
right? But as
Right.
adults, as
Right.
parents, don't we want to regulate and learn how to regulate ourselves so that our children don't need to do that? We
100%,
can
right? They're
have it
still
modeled for them.
they're still kids. And
Right.
that is an interesting edge you're talking about, right? Is like as we empower and educate our teens, um, they might become the most regulated nervous system in the household, which is a lot to ask of a child. It's too much. And so I have historically worked with parents as well. I'm not currently taking parent clients, but I will say that if there's ever a situation where I've been working with a kid for a bit and parents are interested in doing combined sessions, family sessions, I offer that. I'm getting a little scratchy.
Okay. That's good to know. All
Yeah.
right. So, in your line of work, you have worked with a lot of adolescents.
hmm
What do you think is their greatest common concern or felt experiences at this time?
Hmm. Um, I think teens are navigating so much noise. I think they're navigating so much input and so much information that I would say the thing I'm seeing the most is that kids pathologize themselves actually. They are often saying, "Oh, I have this condition and this condition and this condition and this condition." And I am a firm believer that these things do exist. I also think that to have so many teens with so much anxiety and so much depression and lack of sense of belonging is, you know this already, is like they are our canaries. Their bodies are telling us like this is not okay. The way that things are set up. It's not okay. But instead they internalize that like there's something wrong with them. Like my anxiety, they take so much ownership and responsibility for the unhealthy collective that it becomes a personal issue when it's really not. It's they're just so that's something I work with them on a lot. It's kind of that reframe that like these are protective mechanisms that your body is trying to protect you with these responses, with this hypervigilance, with this anxiety, with this shutting down. This is your body's way of trying to protect you from that which is not healthy in our culture. And so, really trying to like reframe that pathology mentality right now for them, because I think it can become all consuming for them to think, oh, I have ADHD and I have anxiety and I have this thing and it becomes crippling. I'm seeing that. So, what's really exciting about empowering kids and families with these tools and like perspectives is really that like it kind of depersonalizes it and it builds this like sense of resilience that okay, these are just signals coming from my body. These are behaviors that I'm having. This is just information for me. And then
Mm,
I get to make a plan. I get to figure out how to support myself and dig deeper into like what am I needing in this kind of cultural context that isn't going to be changing anytime soon. So how do I take care of myself in that if nothing else is changing? And this also goes for kids who may have be in families where there's dynamics that aren't changing and they have protections in place for good reason because of different could be something small too like different communication habits or little things with families but for them to really be able to start to feel empowered and take that especially the older kids and just take that responsibility for like okay mom and dad are arguing right now, what can I do for myself that I can take care of my own needs in this moment, and that's all we can do is that locus of control.
yes. Yes, and that is beautiful because it's teaching them self-agency.
Right.
because we only have responsibility over ourselves,
That's it.
and nothing anybody else does has anything to do with us,
No,
right?
I
And we always
it's
have
true.
choice. We always
Yes,
have the choice to
we
either
do.
engage or disengage.
Right. Right. So beautiful thing for them to learn
Yes.
at this age that,
Yes.
because so much of this, I think, uninitiated teen vibe in our culture is, and I don't say this with judgment on any individuals, I just think it's where we're at collectively, is this sort of like, you made me this, you made me that, you're the blame, blame, blame.
Blame,
Like,
blame.
we teach kids earlier on how to do this and stop doing this, even if the
Mhm.
other adults in their life are doing this
Yeah.
sometimes. We help her, like, they need that modeled. And so, in any way that they can get that, like, modeled back is just super powerful.
And
Yeah.
also just the fact that you said that, for any adults that are listening, we can do the work of noticing when we are blaming somebody else, and we
Yes.
can take back our
Yes.
power and
Yes.
know, what is this?
Mhm.
Do the work. What
Mhm.
is it that is causing me to feel X, Y, and Z? Because that
Right.
person just being that person.
They're
And
just
there
doing
are
their
no
thing.
accidents.
No.
Everything just is.
Mhm.
So the more that we can recognize that blaming and shaming does not work,
It
and the
doesn't
more
work.
that we can recognize when that is happening
Yeah.
and dialing it back, then the more we can step into that place of modeling
Yep.
for our children.
Totally. I had a moment this morning with my kids. Perfect example of like the human nature of this, how deep it is in us. I'm very careful not to try to like blame or shame my children. And yet this morning we're going out the door. I said, you should have had your shoes on by now. Then I said, oh, wait, let me reframe that. You know,
Right? That is
I'm feeling frustrated that you don't have your shoes on yet because I already asked you to do that. So it's that reframe rather than just that automatic jump to,
it's your fault
it's
that
your
we're late.
fault. You're making us late now.
Right.
Right? It's
You're
like
just
they don't
telling a truth
see
that
that.
you're frustrated
Yeah,
because you
I'm
had to
frustrated
say
in
something
this
twice.
moment because I said something twice. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not
And then
okay. It's
right,
okay. It's okay that you didn't listen. I felt frustrated.
right.
You do
But we
you
need
all
to get
do
out the
me.
door. So it is that piece and like I love Gabor Mate. I don't know if
Yes.
you're from, yeah, I mean, I'm sure you are. He has this beautiful quote, and I don't know it exactly, but it's really just that like we're kind of in this house of mirrors, and all of our relationships, all that we don't like or judge in another is that mirror for
Mhm.
us, and that goes for our kids too. I think sometimes our children are our most automatic maybe outlet for some of that judgment, or our partners might be some of that, right? That most automatic outlet for some of that judgment. And when we start to recognize that in ourselves and bring it back, like you're saying, and really take responsibility for how we put that, um, is really, it's actually a disempowering thing
Mhm.
to put
Oh,
that
yes.
onto somebody else and to give someone else a sense of
100%.
power over your experience. Really, you take that back and you take
Right.
responsibility. And so, um, I think as adults and parents, yeah, that's big work for us in
It's
guiding
big
our,
work because
yeah,
anytime you are triggered by your child or your partner, that's it.
yeah, right. And this is why I
What
love
is
teaching the like nonviolent communication, because it's all about it's about getting to the root. Like, what is it that's really bothering you? You're saying you feel angry and upset, and that's so important to identify. And then like what need is underneath that? And can you meet that for yourself? Or would you like to make a request of someone in your environment? And then what do you do with it if they don't honor that request? Then what? So it's kind of this like real social learning for them to navigate relationships really.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why it's great for you to be doing your work, to be helping young children, young humans to learn that self-responsibility.
Yeah.
Then you have children that grow up with a sense of self-responsibility and
Yeah.
not a lot of blame and shame.
That's the goal. That's the goal right there.
Mhm.
And, this is a very kind of adult conversation, but I will say with the kiddos that I work with, all the ages, it's definitely age appropriate, and it's definitely in small doses and really related to whatever real thing it is that they're bringing, right? So it's always connected. It's always really connected to their experience and what
Right.
it is that they're navigating personally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell me if you can share an experience of working with a teen that
Mhm.
has pathologized themselves
Mhm.
and you being able to pull them out of that.
Mm.
What does that look like?
I'm working with a teen right now, one on one, who is so complex, beautiful human, and I'll use they pronouns. Those are the pronouns they use. Um, they identify as being ADHD and on the spectrum and have anxiety. And so these are all um, sort of like labels that they've received from the medical system.
Mhm.
And um, one of the things that we've been working with is so I sometimes with the teens, if they're ready for it, will do some like archetypal work or parts work, which is sort of this like a reparenting process where they're in communication with these younger parts of themselves or these parts of themselves. And so we've sort of externalized some of those behaviors. So things like the stemming or the anxiety, um, especially the anxiety and sort of like the self um, was going to say like the negative self-talk that's happening is we sort of personify that, we externalize it and personify that, and then we can like have conversations with that part. It could be through art, it could be through writing notes, um, and so all of that, it's sort of this reparenting process that really helps a kiddo separate like, oh, that's not me, that's not who I am. That's separate from my inner core. That's separate from my light, from my gifts. It's also not a part of me that I need to reject or
Mhm.
hate or judge. It's like, how do I become in a better relationship with that part of me that really just probably developed at a really young age? And so teens are ready for that. Some teens are, and not all, but some are really ready for that process of that. And so this teen just went through a breakup, and they were the one that was broken up with, and I just went in and I didn't know what to expect when I knew that that had happened for them, and was just like, whoa, could be potentially quite a bit to navigate because there was a lot of like closeness in this relationship. And then the teen had separated that part of them that really really wanted to be with them, this other person, and they had this like very just mature response, and we were able to touch into the grief, but it was sort of like it wasn't all consuming and there was space in between. And I love that Viktor Frankl, you probably know this quote, which is between the stimulus and response is where freedom is. And I feel like that these practices, all the things leading up to this moment with this teen, with the listening to their body and looking for sensation and doing the somatic body mapping and doing different art practices and working with these different parts, they were able to have enough space that it wasn't this all consuming experience, and that they could say, wow, I really handled that and communicated in a way that I am surprised. I surprised myself. And, this teen is 17, and it's just so wonderful to like see that growth and that separation happening between um, identifying with those parts. So,
So beautiful, so needed.
yeah,
Your work is so important.
thank you. Thank you. I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, I do. That's why I'm doing it. And I feel really grateful and honored that I get to, and that I get to work with people in this capacity.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you're able to do this via Zoom, online, however you do it, because
Mhm. Yep, I
then
have
you
a
can reach
Silverton
more
office, and
people.
I can do it on Zoom as well.
Yeah.
Yep, yep.
Yeah, and, right now you've got 2 programs
Mhm,
available, right? Please share
mhm.
about
Actually, there's a few things happening.
that.
So,
Okay.
yeah, so right now I'm seeing the clients, which will be just continually. I
Mm-hmm.
have space for about four more clients,
Okay.
maybe more depending on Zoom, but four more in office and potentially more via Zoom.
Okay.
Um, I also am rolling out, well, during the summertime for the younger kiddos, I do nature-based education. So I'm doing outdoor ed. It's really fun. It's like wild crafting, nature games. There's definitely mindfulness and movement worked in
Mhm.
where kids have a lot of freedom in those programs too. It's not your
Good.
typical summer camp where it's like, we're going to entertain you all day. They
Right.
have a lot of space to like come up with games on their own and we're always out on beautiful land, and those are usually a week long. So I'll
Yeah.
be launching those soon for summer on my website.
Okay.
And then I'm also just about to embark on offering groups for teenage girls aged 12 to 13. So the idea with this is that we're creating a 4 month long, and I say we because I'm collaborating with two other women on this. We're creating for now a 4 month long mentorship program that's really setting a foundation for more rites of passage holding and group centered spaces for right now. It's just for girls at this age.
Mm-hmm.
um, I'd love to have affinity groups to recommend to for other genders and orientations. And
Perfect.
right now,
Yes.
it's this is for girls,
Mm-hmm.
or feminine identifying people with female bodies, um, because we're really deep diving into the feminine and what it means to walk as a young person with a female body in this world. And um, again, they're going to be learning a lot of soft skills like navigating relationships, tending to their own stress management, self care kinds of things, nature connection, all the good stuff, all
Oh,
the
good
stuff
stuff.
that we all wish we had
We
had
all wish. Mm-hmm.
as young women in a community with other women who are
Mm-hmm.
showing us what does it mean to be a woman in this world? How could that look for me? Rather
It's
than
your aunties and
being
elders showing the way.
Yeah, rather than on a screen in these really like diluted, contorted versions of what it means to exist as a female in this world. And
This is a 4 month program? Are they meeting once a week
we're meeting
or
once a week.
once a week?
So we're going to have a Portland cohort and a Silverton cohort.
Mm-hmm.
And we're just about to launch after the holidays. And it will be once a week after school hours.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, all those logistics are going to be rolled out pretty soon. But
When you
people
say
can
after the
reach out.
holidays, is it starting in January?
It's starting in February, but all the
Okay.
information will be live after the
Okay.
holidays.
Okay.
And
Perfect.
people can reach out to me with any questions in the meantime. They can take a look on the website, which I'll give you. There's a little preview on there.
Awesome.
And yeah, the idea is that's just going to become a really robust program that then continues to carry young women through all ages and stages up until they're ready to leave the nest.
Yeah.
So this is also a big part of my heart work that I'm really excited about, that's unfolding right now. So
Wonderful.
yeah.
Yeah. Very good. Very useful. Uh,
Hmm.
how big are the groups going to be?
12
What?
girls.
12 girls.
Yeah, just 12.
Oh,
And
okay.
the idea is that each cohort is sort of culminating in some sort of honoring ceremony, some sort of like challenge on the land where they're sort of being tested. But we recognize that it's not just one rite of passage for all of adolescence. They're continually moving through these ages and stages of development. And so really wanting to hold them in each age and stage, depending on where they're at.
Perfect.
Yep. So,
So perfect.
yes.
And then you also have another program for parents.
Oh, right. So I am hosting three mom groups. This is called Mother Love, and this is taking place in Silverton, Oregon. And Mother Love is a 2 hour ritual container for moms, hosted on 3 Saturdays. And if it takes off, then I'd love to keep offering more of them. But
Uh-huh.
the idea really is that it's an invitation to moms to draw a sacred circle around themselves and come into a space where they can really, really connect to heart, really, really connect to their own bodies and just quiet the noise. And it's just really nurturing. It's like really nourishing. We're going to have tea and snacks and a little bit of sharing, but there's a lot of choice involved. And so you can really show up and take that time for yourself. We'll have different practices and things planned out, but you could also come and just lay on a yoga mat for that entire time if that felt like the right thing to do.
Right.
And I'm trying to make it really affordable for folks. So it's 35 to 65 sliding scale for the 2 hours, and that's on my website as well.
Okay, and that starts when?
The first one is February 15th.
Okay,
Hmm. Yeah.
wonderful.
And then the other dates are listed on the website. So,
Okay.
yeah. So thank you so much for inviting me on and for just giving me the chance to share about what it is that I'm offering and just really wanting to get the word out more. I've been working in schools, right?
Yeah,
You know that I've been working one-on-one in schools and I'm
right.
transitioning out of those environments now.
Yeah.
And so it feels just really exciting to be able to offer this in a communal way. And the other thing I'll say that pricing for my packages are sliding scale as well. And I'm
Mhm.
open to payment plans. I'm open to any of that in terms of access. I don't want there to be barriers for folks. And it is, I would say, I know it's hard to get in to see a therapist right now. And so that's also why I'm offering this. I'm not a licensed therapist, but I do have all this, educational experience that.
Right. You have tools, actual tools that have been, that you have worked with,
Hmm.
and hence the success. Now, my question is, I know you do the one-on-ones. Do you
Hmm.
ever do sort of this kind of work in a group setting that's not like the girls group or
Right.
like them, right? But like if you were to offer, if you were to come up to Portland, I
Hmm.
don't know, for like once a week or something where girls can come together after school at a specific place. Maybe it's a library where
Hmm.
you lead a group. Is that something that you would be interested in? Like, is that
Yeah.
effective at all?
I think I have led 8-week sessions with kids, mixed genders,
Mm-hmm.
in certain educational settings. And I do feel like it's super effective at that age because they are attuning to each other, and each other is where they're doing most of their learning, like with one another. And you're not the first person to ask me if I offer that. So that's interesting. So I would be open to that and I would be willing to look at that. But I do think there's a lot of importance in like making sure that they show up and making sure that that container is set and that it's at least for 8 weeks, like really consistent. A lot of
Yeah.
these skills, like it's like the way I talk about it with kids is like, it's like building any other muscle. When you're
Hmm.
building self-regulation, I don't even like those words, tending to the self or nervous system soothing things, it takes time to build that up and a lot of repetition. And so, kind of the one off pop ups for kids, I wouldn't recommend, and they need to build that safety and trust with me and with each other.
Right.
And
It's so
there's a lot
important.
of kids that might come to the first one and be like, "Oh, I don't want to do that." And I would really encourage a continued at least three. Give it at least three, and then if you're like, "No, I really don't like that," then. But
Right, I agree.
yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if it could be something where, I'm almost sure that there are going to be people who have their kids in a public school setting
Hmm.
that are craving this type of interaction
Yeah.
and to give them that ability, to
Right. What
have
would be
space.
cool? Yeah, to like hang out after school or something. I
Yeah,
wonder
or
if
just go to the library after school. This is something that I do once a week after school. This is something that I do. I go to the library. It's somewhere
mm,
public, it's somewhere
mhm,
safe. You know what I mean?
mhm.
And then allow that to happen and really get, because I feel like there are parents that feel like they don't know what to do,
Oh
but they
yeah.
want to support their child and they don't know
Yeah.
the best way. And if this is an option and
Yeah.
the parents got buy-in, the child's got buy-in, it could be so successful,
Mhm. Yeah.
formative.
Right. I'm gonna think about this. I'll think about it and see what might be able to put together. I love it because I do think there is a lot of power in the mixed ages, and there's a lot of power in the all genders as well,
Yes.
and really focusing on that. So on that skill building together, because that's what the world is, right? They're going to be interacting always with each other. So
Right, right, and that's the
mhm.
reality of the world, that's a true world,
Yep.
and so it's just
Yep.
it would be brilliant if we could offer that, if you could offer it, so keep
Love that.
thinking about it,
And
I'll keep thinking about it, let's keep
the seed
trying.
is planted, and I'm in a place where there's more capacity for that. So excited.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yep.
Now, before we end, what experiences, advice, or words of wisdom can you share for parents of
Mm,
adolescents so
yeah.
that we can ensure that all teens feel like they matter?
Mhm. Mm. I love that question so much because, yeah, I think earlier when you asked about what teens are working with, in addition to the kind of the, um, self-pathologizing or true. I mean, and I don't say that in the sense of like, I don't believe that these things exist, because I think they do. I think teens are also navigating this deep desire to belong, and and are looking to a kind of broken culture for that. And I would say, if you can, as a parent, really, really meet your child where they are, and really like really just work on that inner critic of yourself, that which you're judging in another is that which you're judging in yourself. And if you struggle with these behaviors or things your teen is doing, like, turn the mirror. It's hard work. It's hard work because we can really, and I say this because I'm a parent and I know that I can fool myself into thinking that I'm being a conscious parent. I'm doing all the things. And then I'm like, well, when I really look at it, like, that wasn't, that wasn't an integrity for me. And so I would say, check yourself, be gentle with yourself, and really model the repair process with your kids too. Model that repair process with your young kids, with your teens. Take responsibility for yourself. You're not a perfect parent and you won't ever be. And you're not expected to be. And they don't need that from you. They need to
No.
see you making mistakes, and they need to see you taking responsibility.
Yeah.
Um, and I would just say, like, really take care of yourself. Take care of yourself so that you have more in your cup to give the kids, and that you have more in your reserves. And then in terms of teens, I would just say, the more that you can depersonalize what is happening between you and them. I mean, and you're a teen mama, so you know depersonalizing some of the rejections and the pushing back, and that, like, their brains are in this height of development that is like the same reorganizing that happens when they're 3. So you're going to see these behaviors and things that you're like, well, I thought that was meant for toddlerhood. And it's like, no, their brains are on fire at these developmental ages, in the teen years. And so just to have this grace that it's not about you. It's
Mm-mm.
not about you. It's about them spreading their wings and them really, really trying to find their own. And so you give them space to do that, and you have your limits and you have your boundaries, but really to, like, honor that in them and see that in them, that they're trying to figure out who they are in this world, and they're looking around at a world that has so many beautiful things about it. I don't want to be super negative about our collective culture right now, because there are amazing things happening in the world. There is so much beauty. Um,
Mhm.
but sometimes our teens get pulled in and they're looking in these places that aren't so healthy, like social media. Um, and so I would also say, like, as a parent, check your relationship with technology. Check how you're engaging with technology.
Yeah.
Is you're the model for that for your kiddo too.
Mm.
And yeah, just a lot of grace and compassion for everyone who's
For
growing and
everyone.
changing. Yourself, your kids. Yeah, they're navigating a lot.
Yeah, they are, and we have to
Mhm.
remember also that in all the fire that they have, what are they looking for from us as parents is that we can be the anchor.
Exactly.
So the sooner that you can find your peace and not take things personally
Mhm.
and be there,
Mhm.
that's all that matters.
It's all that matters. Another thing I heard recently that I think felt really aligned is if you need to say less, say more with your body and say less with your words. And just show,
Mm,
embody that presence, that anchored presence. I'm talking a lot right now, but in my sessions with the kids, I don't do that much talking because they don't need lectures. They don't need explanations. They don't need
no.
more input. They don't need more noise from us. They need embodied presence and they need us to hold space and they need us just to be the anchor.
Right.
Yeah.
So interesting that you're saying that because I can remember when I was taking classes, with child development classes, and
Mm-hmm.
we're learning that, at a young age, when a child asks a question, they're not looking for a full explanation. They just want like one word, and they actually want you just to listen to hear what
Mm-hmm.
their interpretation is. They're
That's
really
right.
asking questions so that they can speak. And
Right.
oh gosh, wait, that applies to our entire lives. We don't have to do a lot of talking.
We don't. We
We
don't.
practice active listening.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's medicinal.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Thank you, Shay.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's been such a fun conversation. I could just go and go and go.
I know. We'll have more, we'll have more.
Yeah.
What were you saying?
I was talking about how it's so important for our teens to learn where yes in their body is and where no, well, for all kids, and where no in their body is. And so I do a practice with them, which is a yes no practice, figuring out over and over and over. We practice where is yes in my body, where is no in my body. And then we start to work with how do I know if something's coming from my intuition and my knowing versus my thoughts or something else, someone else thinks I should be doing. And starting to parse out those differences between yes and no and intuition. Clarify that.
Can that be one of the practices for your parent class?
That would be wonderful.
When you're talking about it, I'm like, "Oh, okay." I kind of feel like my yes is definitely, like, in my heart,
It's an
like,
upward.
"Yes!"
Hmm.
I don't know where my no sits.
Yeah. Right.
So, love to
And you
practice.
could practice that in your life. You could practice, I had a teacher once tell me, even do it with like a piece of fruit and like hold them in front of you. And if it's a fruit, you're like, I don't know which one I want. If you're having a hard time making a decision, practice like, can I feel, instead of thinking why this would be a yes or a no, can I feel in my body where the yes or the no is? So there's all these little ways to practice.
That is a really fun exercise.
They're
I'm gonna
fun. Hmm. And
thanks.
some people, I feel like do process a yes and a no. Like some people, it's a really intuitive in their gut, full body, and then others, it's more nebulous. And so there's different ways that we find intuition and our yes and our no's. But typically in the body, there's a somatic yes and a somatic no.
Isn't that interesting that you're saying typically in the body there is a somatic yes and a somatic no? And I'm gonna say probably 99% of the population has no idea what you're talking about.
Right. That there's a place within your body that you could have a sensation that is telling you, no, this is a no for me. You start paying attention, like, is there something that closes? Is there something that tightens? Is there something that drops? Is there something that constricts? Is there something that opens and energizes? Like you did that with your body. You're like,
Yeah.
and that's often a yes for people. It's like a vibrant sunshine coming out.
Mhm.
So, and for
Yeah.
people, right, we're not taught to listen to the body's sensations. We're not taught to explore that as information until it gets really loud. And then we're not well.
This is so important work that you do.
Thank you.
And this
I
girls
agree.
group that you're starting in February for 4 months,
Mhm.
I'm gonna manifest that there is a collaborative men's group as well.
So there is a men's group starting up in Colton, and it's
Okay.
called, and I meant to mention this, so I'm so glad you're asking me. It's called New Earth Pathways, and they're starting in February. I haven't met the person who's facilitating, but his name is Brad. and it's in Colton, and it's a year-long immersion for 12, 13-year-old boys.
Amazing. Okay.
Yep.
All right. I'm gonna go hunt him down.
Not Colton, Corbett. Sorry.
Corbett.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yep. It's happening.
Yes.
It's
It's
happening.
happening.
These supports are they're happening.
Yeah. We're getting back to our roots
Hmm.
and it's time.
Yeah, it's time.
It's been happening. Past, present, and future. Yay.
Yes. Yes. Oh,
Thank you. And I'll
you're
have your
welcome.
website up when I put the video up.
Okay.
All
Sounds
right.
good.
I'll see you
All
soon.
right. Bye. Thank you.
Bye.